We are rolling. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay, now we're rolling.
Now we are rolling
Yes.
for real, rather than false rolling.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm J.W. Myers.
I'm Karl Brewdio.
And welcome to the Movie Brewdio podcast with J.W. and Karl.
Yes.
You know, we're two middle-aged guys living in Western Maryland who love our small-town lives, yet cling to our past days of social and cultural relevance.
So, in this podcast, we talk about the things, the tools, and the resources that enable us to walk through life with a smile on our faces and a little bit of kindness in our hearts.
Man, I almost see you say, I thought you were going to say, that's your line. Like when I hesitated between the J.W. and Karl, and then
I thought you were
Oh
pausing.
yeah, that's right. That's my line. We are two middle-aged guys. We're continuing to revise and reform our little opening as we. This is one of the things we're going to talk about today.
Oh yeah.
The why of why we are doing this. But Karl and I just spent some time together and had some really cool revelations that I'm sure we'll get into this in this podcast. But here we, Karl, you and I are really kind of in sync right now.
It's really odd. I think it's
the
mushroom juice.
We should have turned it was the mushroom juice. Karl and I just shared mushroom juice.
We've been drinking mushroom juice all morning.
For the non-paid promotional consideration, Four Sigmatic. Which one? This is the chaga mushroom.
That's the chaga mushroom coffee. Yeah.
I'm on my second, but it's not coffee though. There's no coffee.
No, there's no coffee in it. So there's
some mushroom compound.
You can get the morning mental whatever it is. I can't remember what it's called, but you can. Yeah.
You know what? They can pay me if they want me to advertise their product because right now I'm just drinking this stuff.
I don't feel any more clear.
I
don't feel as if all consciousness has been.
How's your mushroom juice?
Well, you said that earlier, and I thought it's the same thing because we don't drink do a lot of dairy.
Okay,
and we'll do cheese and a little bit of butter and stuff, but we don't drink milk. We drink soy milk, or we really like almond milk or cashew milk.
But how's cashew?
Cashew is actually pretty good.
I haven't done cashew. We're almond for years, and recently my daughter had milk at someone's house, like regular milk. Right. And she came home and she's like, "Daddy, can I ask a question? Can we get some real milk?"
Some real milk.
And I really, my daughter and my son have lived their entire life without having cow's milk.
And now they want milk.
And now they want actual milk, and I'm like,
you can't taste a little bit of not want it every night. No, but with almond milk, it's so funny when you talk about it as milk because it's juice. Mm-hmm. They squeeze almonds and they squeeze these nuts and it's juice.
They squeeze the nut.
But you can't sell it as nut juice because no one would
buy nut juice.
Well,
but it's
a certain
one of those
segment of the population would buy nut juice, but it's not.
But
big
that's
enough.
all not big enough to sell. I'm not sure that it's not big enough, but that's a whole other thing. So my question is, as we follow along blindly often on these dietary trends.
Right.
Is almond milk, cashew milk, soy milk, any milk? Because, it was soy milk for a long time, and then soy started to be bad, or perceived as bad. So then we quickly segged to almond without really talking about soy anymore.
Right.
And so my question is any of this actually better than milk was in the first place?
I don't know. I think there's
any of this nut juice better than actual milk from a cow's udder.
Well, it is odd. I mean, if you think about it, we are the only mammal that drinks the milk of a mammal that is not our species.
Right. I read that once in Mary Lou Henner's book.
Yeah.
I was a friend of a relative of hers, her niece, Lizzie, and I were friends, so I remember reading that, and that's when I stopped dairy at one time.
Right.
But I'm like an addict trying to. I'm back on. I've never really been off dairy.
You back on the Parmesan, man.
I got back on the Parmesan, man. I just couldn't help it.
Come on, man.
Oscar's all over you.
I know you got that ricotta. You holding out on me. No, I feel like. I don't know. I really don't know. there was the documentary.
This is not a nutrition show, and so any statements made in this, well, they certainly haven't been approved by the FDA, because I don't care for the FDA. Oscar's getting in your lunchbox over there. That's fine. But none of these statements have been evaluated by the FDA, nor will they ever be. They do represent the opinions of JW and Karl, but that have absolutely no scientific validity. Right. But in today's world, what does that matter?
So
anyway,
I think
that's a whole other story.
Start eating handfuls of lard.
Yes, that is the new diet. The
cram
JW.
It down, beef tallow, just mainline that. I think. I really don't know. There was the documentary Forks Before Knives. I don't know if you ever saw the documentary.
I saw all those Netflix ones.
And it was sort of like, I think that's probably the best method, although that's the hardest method I think to do, which is eat food, real food, not processed food, but eat real food, not too much, mostly vegetables. I think that's actually
pretty good.
I think that's a pretty good.
I actually have a new diet, but I haven't started on it yet, so I'm not even going to. Well, I don't want to talk about diet plans. I just asked about milk.
Well, it's
my fault.
I was reading the 4 Hour Body, the Tim Ferriss book, and there's a whole thing about. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a very particular diet.
He was on Fallon last night, by the way.
Was he really?
Yes, and we tape Fallon. Test tapes Fallon, so we can watch that later.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a diet that's in the 4 Hour Body that is the slow carb diet. And it is like a ketogenic diet.
Ketogenic, yep.
So it's protein lots of fat, vegetables.
Like you eat bags of macadamia nuts.
Yeah, just
like that kind of fat.
Just crushing it. And then you get a cheat day once a week where you can eat anything you want.
Yep. That's to kind of throw your metabolism off so it doesn't get used to doing the same thing. Like I get the principle. The one that I'm doing is like a 5-2 diet. I think it's called 5 to 2. And basically you eat kind of normal for 5 days, not excessively.
Right.
And then it's 2 days of fasting.
That's interesting.
But the fasting is 500 calories for women, 600 calories for men.
Wow.
And the way my wife and I have been failing, I'm larger than I've ever been in my life, and I've seesawed my entire adult life, and I'll get down, I'll start running, but I've got about a 30-40 pound swing that unfortunately I'm on the upper end of the 30-40 pound swing right now. But the problem I've had the last years since living in Maryland is I haven't stuck to anything. Like I'll start something and do it, and I never had that problem with discipline before. I think it, not to use excuses, I think it has to do with having kids, convenience, all that stuff.
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing for a diet for me is the slow carb diet would be great if it was me. Like just me.
If it's just you,
I could do that. But
you have a life. Life doesn't work like that.
You can't look at your family and go like, okay, dinner tonight is I'm
gonna have an apple, and you guys can have this freaking lasagna.
Right.
How about that?
Or to look at everybody and go like, well, tonight we're eating 30 ounces of steak. A whole head of cauliflower each, a handful of macadamia nuts. And we're going to wash it down with rainwater that I collected in a barrel outside.
That's illegal. You cannot do that. And I'm good friends with the water commissioner, and I will report you. One day he might actually listen to this. The water commissioner is the one that wrote the story of the script that I'm going to do this summer.
You can't collect rainwater?
I don't know if you can in Frostburg. There are parts of the country
where you can't. Yeah, that is true.
I think it might be illegal in Frostburg. I don't want to say that. We'll talk to my friend Brian Alderton, a very, very good friend. And it certainly wouldn't have been something that he imposed. But there are a lot of kind of outdated things on a lot of local governments that you cannot collect rainwater.
Man. You can have my rainwater when you pry it from my cold, dead hands.
From my cold, wet hands.
That's right. But no, anyway, I don't know what the best diet is. So sorry, everyone. I think that's... If you've ever met me, you know I'm not the person to ask for dietary hints.
Clearly, take your dietary advice from JW and Karl.
Yeah,
that's maybe that's the why of our show.
Maybe it is.
Maybe that's the why we're missing. This is going to be a diet show.
Maybe, but a cautionary tale.
A cautionary tale.
Like people look at us.
Here's everything you should listen to this show. Do the opposite.
Do the opposite. Whatever we say,
you'll live a healthy life.
Yeah, you'll live to be 300 years old.
Oh my Lord!
But no, it is interesting. Swinging all the way back around, we really
Where do we start?
We really are in sync lately.
Yes.
as that long conversational cul-de-sac shows.
Well, I sort of blew the moment where I was going to announce that.
Yes,
because I just kind of dropped it out there. But I'm going to do a film this summer. I'm going to do the film I want to do this summer. It's a film called All Star, and we're going to shoot it locally, and it's going to be awesome. I've had some things happen in my life lately where I've gotten offered some other films that it was an honor to be offered anything, and I'm appreciative of it, and I'm helping them out, but not necessarily material that I'm particularly passionate about.
Right.
And so I was very excited, kind of led to a lot of deep speculation. What am I doing? What is the why of what the movie Brewdio is?
Right.
And I came to the conclusion that, I've done it before, I'll do it again. I'm going to make a film.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're going to make another film. But first, we're going to make this film, and we're going to shoot it in June, and use a lot of local talent, local people, local kids. There's a lot of kids in it. It's about a couple of kids.
Yeah.
I got dogs barking upstairs.
That's all right.
So talk for a minute.
Oh,
I'm going to let a dog out.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Well, I think it's very interesting. Is that we've been separately talking, or separately thinking about what is the why of the movie Brewdio, and it's a really interesting topic because I think now more than ever you have to make art. And it's really important to just start that process, even if you're not sure what the end result of that's going to be. And in some ways, you have to just throw it out into the universe and say, we're going to do this thing is going to happen. But we're really in an era where I think, or we're starting an era where making art in sort of that, I think it's Kurt Vonnegut who talks about,
I got a Vonnegut quote on here.
Do you really?
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but you have to make art. You just you do it, and and the art that you're making is whatever particular thing you're doing, and you make it and you put it out there. That's really needed, and even if you don't get anything, I can't remember the whole quote, but it's essentially. Even if nothing comes of it, you still win because you've created something. Well, you've made art.
What leads us back to this that we're doing. Now, this is our 6th podcast.
Yes.
And in addition to the 4, how many did we do? Did we do 6? We did 6 trial runs.
We did 6 trial runs.
So this is the 12th time.
Wow.
12 consecutive weeks with a 1-week break at Christmas. Yeah. So that's really 12 in 13 weeks that we sat down to have a conversation.
Yep.
And it excites me. To me, this is making art.
Yes.
Doing something
I agree.
creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's surprising. I've always responded. I'm a big fan of podcasts. I like listening to them. I like consuming them. But there's always been this, man, I want to do one of these things.
Sure. Yeah.
And the problem was I kind of sat around for 3.5 years going, I don't know what to do a podcast about. And I think we still have that problem.
Well,
but but I just said, if we just start talking, we're going to figure something out.
We'll figure it out. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, right?
Or it starts with a single monologue.
Starts with
a dialogue or something.
Starts with a single conversation about Yakov Smirnoff.
Yes. Back to Yakov, continuing on our Yakov theme. Believe it or not, call us Yakov. It is time for you.
Right. Wait, here he
goodness.
Is. What a country!
What a country! I still haven't gone and listened to.
I gotta come back. I really think I remember seeing some of his really early stuff.
Yeah.
Like on when Showtime would do those stand-up specials and whatever.
Well, he was on the original Young Comedians All-Star reunion that Rodney put together.
Right.
Who was talking about that? The Nerdist. Chris Hardwick was talking about that with Lou. Oh, we had Louie on this week, Louie Anderson.
Right. Oh, Louie Anderson.
And they were talking about that, who was also on that original one. Yakov was one of the originals.
And his stuff was really, I mean, it was different, and I don't, it didn't, it was not as formulaic maybe as it became. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with his later work, so I can't say that definitively. But I think,
but when you invent a joke form that works, I mean, that is
He's just
to a comedian. I mean, there are great comedians that never invent a joke form,
right? Yeah,
and Jeff Foxworthy, same thing. You might be a redneck if. I mean, you can laugh about that all you want, but my God, what a catchphrase, a joke form,
and that blue collar comedy. I mean, because Bill Engvall came out later with "Here's Your Sign." Like, stupid people need a sign.
Yep.
It
was the right thing at the right time,
and
couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. I met Foxworthy once. Yeah, neat guy.
Well, and like if you say, all you have to do is say, "What's the deal with blank?"
Yeah,
and you instantly think of Jerry Seinfeld. You know, so
what's the deal with
airline peanuts?
So much that he said that it's like that became the catchphrase of everybody making fun.
Right, it's just
that joke.
Yeah,
form.
I mean, he said it maybe once or twice, but. It was really, I don't know, we talked about Gary Shandling before and how great Gary Shandling was. There are so many great comedians that are just sort of forgotten now.
That era produced a lot of them. Yeah. And today, you can count on one hand the comedians that really stick out. I mean, Gaffigan's got his clean crowd.
Yes.
Louis C.K. is in a whole different stratosphere.
Right.
Maron's got his niche, supported by his podcast, supported by everything else that he does.
Yeah.
But there's
Patton Oswalt.
The universe is kind of small compared to.
Yeah.
But it's the oversaturation of how could you be a comedian now? You play at a club, someone records it on your iPhone, all your material is instantly available worldwide, and you go back to the same club the next night, and they're like, well, you did that joke last night, I just watched it on YouTube. It seems pretty impossible.
I think it's tougher. I mean, I do think it's tougher. Well, and I think you've seen, there's been the rise of female comedians. Mm-hmm. Amy Schumer has
oh my goodness,
has really come out of nowhere. I can't think of another female comedian. Well, Sarah Silverman.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that woman's name? I can't think of her name, but the chaga mushroom is obviously not helping all that much.
The chaga mushroom has not sharpened your brain.
No, it really. Oh, Whitney Cummings.
Oh yeah, Whitney Cummings. She's on Ferris this week.
Yeah, so
but that was real serious.
It wasn't.
I kind of tuned out because I didn't.
It wasn't light and airy.
It wasn't a light one on Ferris this week.
But comedians are like that. I think a lot of times you sit comedians down and you start saying they're
generally working out damaged goods.
And they and that's something to get on stage and do what they do on a regular basis. You have to be driven by some sort of need for approval or. I mean, I found that when I was on stage, when I was doing shows in, doing theater work in Virginia, that sense of walking out on stage and getting a laugh or walking out on stage and having a crowd and knowing that they're with you and that they're going to react however you can make them react. It's a really intoxicating feeling.
Sure.
And, I've known a lot of comedians that are just damaged human beings. They really, it's sad.
I know good ones that aren't. Yeah. Well, now I have a good friend, Seth Shapiro, out in Los Angeles. I was the minister at their wedding. I conducted their marriage ceremony in Vegas this summer. He married a lovely young lady, Ashley. Just sweet, awesome people. But anyway, he was one of my improv students back in the Idiot Central days in L.A.
Yeah.
And after that, he really started pursuing stand-up comedy, and he plays around and organizes shows a lot in L.A. So, and I don't think Shap is terribly damaged.
Yeah, well, I think,
but no, I know what you mean. There's always a working something out kind of thing with
there's, and I think that maybe it's more that those people tend to be. If you were to say find the damaged person, you could say who's a comedian. Yeah, stand-up comedians, raise your hand.
Who's the funniest guy in the room?
Right, it's him. Yeah, because it drives you. You had for me, I had to learn a sense of humor to not get beat up and to try and fit in. So there's some it's a coping skill, but you have to at some point unpack that and go hey.
And for those of you looking for a place to unpack that, come to JW's improv class, right. Improv with JW at QCP on Tuesday nights, 5:30 to 7 for kids, 7 to 8:30 with adults. We had a good night last night.
Yeah.
My God, you guys were funny.
Yeah, we had a good time last night. It was really, really good.
Just a sharp group that you guys really stunned me with and I was pushing you in the deep water and making you do some tougher stuff.
Yeah.
But you guys really listen and you act like a bunch of adults.
Yeah,
Sometimes with the kids, it's like herding cats.
It is tough, and we've talked about this before, where where it's listening, it's reacting, and it's trying to be present. And I think that you have to go into it with a sense of, I guess for me, I try and go into it with a sense of grace and hey, we're in this together, right?
Right.
You don't want to. You want to give the other person something to do.
Well, you inherently understand that, and that's a difficult thing to teach anybody. Is that being funny isn't all about you. It's about team play. It's about support. It's about, and maybe that's why Shap, my friend Seth Shapiro, Shap, is kind of an undamaged comedian, because he had such a he did improv for so many years.
Right.
Like he understood that concept of working with other people to a certain degree.
And I always loved guys like Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Who was, they called him the glue.
He was the glue.
And because, he could commit fully to whatever character he was committing to. And he had that sense. He knew he was going to get his laughs. Mm-hmm. And so he could hang back. And he was like an offensive lineman of comedy. Nobody knew who he was until, unfortunately there was a tragic death there. But he's the guy that made anything he was involved in work, all the way back to Pee-wee's Playhouse. Oh yeah, and he came to it later in life. He was a graphic artist.
Yeah,
and
then
do
everybody's logos and stuff.
Yeah, I mean it was crazy. Yeah. And then got into comedy, and then came to it really as an adult. It wasn't like 19-year-old Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live, where was great, but also working some stuff out.
19 years old too.
Or Mike Myers, who was I think 20. You just have a much different perspective.
Mm-hmm. All great podcast. Marin didn't have Murphy. Marin's had a lot of friends of Hartman's talked about him, and David Spade and
John Lovitz.
Lovitz has trouble talking about him. Sorry, the first one we were talking about. Mike Myers.
Mike Myers.
We had a great interview with Mike Myers, but I think all that's behind the paywall now.
Yeah, probably so.
Unfortunately.
But we had a great time last night. It was a lot of fun. Ethan went and he had a ball. He asked me this morning. He was like, "So are we doing improv tonight?" And I was like,
"Are you going to do that every night?"
It's Tuesday nights, bud. And he was like, "Well, I want to do it." And I was like, "Okay, if that's something you want to do, we got it." I'm going to have to drill the rules into him a little bit.
That's okay. Everybody takes a little while to
adjust,
learn it. But it's... I even think in a kid's class, as crazy as it was last night, I thought there was a learning curve that occurred over the course of the hour and a half. That's the best you can hope for, especially when you have 3 new ones in there all in one night. So... all good.
Yeah, it was good times.
So other than that, what made? I think we've talked. I was going to say what made you laugh this week.
I think
I think we've covered that.
I think that's it. Didn't it made me laugh some, but this weekend Tracy was out of town. She had a funeral in Virginia, so.
That made you laugh?
Well, it didn't make me laugh.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So I was just batching it all weekend, pretty much. So I had the opportunity to actually sit down and watch whatever I wanted to watch and as much of it as I wanted to watch. And so I was watching a BBC America show called Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Oh, yeah. Well, I read that book.
Many years ago. Douglas Adams. And
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. It takes some of the kind of the characters from the book and reimagines it.
It's the Lord of the Rings kid.
Right? Max Landis does it.
No, but the Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood,
is in
thank
it.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings kid.
Lord of the Rings.
That's a terrible thing to say about him.
But he is.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Really interesting because they really go full out on like it's a holistic detective, where he just Dirk Gently is just like, look, I don't look for clues. I just go about my life, and then as things happen, I accept that that's part of the plan of me solving the case.
This is sort of like us trying to figure out what this podcast is about.
It's our holistic podcast episode.
Yeah, I think I'm making a movie.
I think this is going to happen.
I think this whole podcast has been about me making a movie this summer.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. The early episodes are kind of uneven. I think there's 9 episodes. Mm-hmm. But the last 2 episodes where they start to tie all of the different plot points together.
And how many episodes are there?
I think there's 8 or 9. I think.
Yeah.
So like the last 2, when they start to tie all these plot points together, they're really, really satisfying. So it was interesting.
Was it Netflix?
I don't want to disclose how I was watching it.
Okay, never mind.
But needless to say, it showed up on my TV.
It's out there somewhere and showed up on your TV.
You can watch it on the BBC America app, I think, if you have the app.
That is funny.
And we finished the first season of The Crown the other night, 2 nights ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. I really enjoy The Crown. So that was, neither one made me laugh.
I'm hard pressed for what made me laugh.
Yeah, well, I will say the thing that made me laugh over the weekend was in between on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So before the Steelers game came on, which I turned off and discussed. I was watching
football. Made us laugh.
I was watching Talladega Nights.
There you go.
Which is one of it's
everything,
a stupid funny movie.
Everything Will Ferrell touches,
Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly and that whole
Yeah.
cast. It just is so good.
You know what's interesting about John C? He is so serious. Like he was again a Marin podcast guest. He's just he is so unassuming.
Yeah.
He's just not into being a celebrity.
Yeah.
He does it as a job. And takes his job very, very seriously. He's truly an artist.
Yeah.
But just is not. He is just an anti-celebrity. Just has no interest in the celebrity aspect.
And it was like a character actor for years and years. Like he was the I didn't realize
Magnolia.
He was like the catcher in
For Love of the Game.
For Love of the Game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like.
Best baseball movie
ever.
It
is a great movie.
Best baseball movie ever.
And he was
better even
he was the dad in what was that name of that movie? We Need to Talk About Kevin. Do you know that movie?
No, I don't know.
Tilda Swinton is in it as the mom, and her son is like
serial killer.
Yeah, like kind of really like whatever.
I did see that.
And he's the dad in that movie, and it is super like dark.
Yeah.
It is and he does.
We Need to Talk About Kevin. That's a good title.
Yeah.
We Need to Talk About Kevin.
I think that's what it's called. I think the kid's name is Kevin.
That is a great. That's a great title.
But no, he is so fun. I mean, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers.
Step Brothers. Apparently, they're making a sequel. There's a sequel in the works to that. Step Brothers came to me at a weird time. I just left California. I was living in Ohio. I was not liking life in Ohio and just kind of down and stuff. And I happened to catch it out of the blue, and I just would weep laughing at this movie. It made me feel so good.
I can't. We would sing.
Just watch it over and over.
I would sing with my staff. We would sing just phrases from Boats and Hoes. You
want to get downstairs and do karate? Yup.
And it was as a pop culture thing when we were watching Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. There's the scene where Batman, spoiler alert, Batman is going to kill Superman. He's like in the underground thing. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have seen it, yeah.
And he's getting ready to kill him, and Superman's like, you have to save Martha. And Batman's like, what? Why did you say that name? Because through the whole thing, they're foreshadowing, that Batman's mom is named Martha, and then Superman's mom is named Martha as well. There's no connection there, but then he's like, well, why did you say that name? And then instantly he's like, Martha's not going to die and I'm going to go save your mom. And the only thing I could think of was that scene in Step Brothers where they're just like, do we just become best friends?
Yep.
Do you want to go do karate? Yep.
Yeah,
and it's the only thing I could think of.
Do we just become best friends? Do we just decide to make a movie?
Yup. Do we just decide to form the Justice League? Yup. You want to go beat up on Doomsday? Yup. Yeah.
Well, what made me laugh this week, I took the kids to Ohio.
Yeah.
Their Elf on the Shelf, Ruby, got them WWE tickets for Christmas.
Oh, yes, very nice.
And so we went to the WWE, and it was fun. You know what was fun about it? It was my son was shaking with excitement.
Really?
Like he could barely contain himself.
That's cool.
He was so excited about seeing this thing that he sees on TV. These are his celebrities. You know, it is what it is. We talk about, this isn't real. People aren't really hitting each other. All that kind of stuff.
Right.
We've had that, but whatever like anything else on TV, whatever fantasy they have created,
right?
It's part of his thing, and they were so happy, and all the cheers when I didn't know if I'd bought tickets to a crappy show.
Right.
Didn't think we had good seats. The seats were great. I mean, they weren't ringside. I mean, they were nosebleeds, but there really wasn't a bad seat.
Right.
And
it was in like a civic arena?
It was in Dayton. What's the school there? I forget. It was in Dayton.
Yeah.
It was, but yeah, it was
like a Coliseum,
a decent sized basketball arena.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. There really are no bad seats.
No.
In a Coliseum.
And with the jumbotrons and everything. But like they knew every wrestler. It wasn't like this was the B-Leagues or something.
Right.
It wasn't. This is the WWE Live, so there's SmackDown and Raw, and then Live is not televised. But they're kind of working out the show for, and this was SmackDown. So probably what they recorded last night on SmackDown, I bet they're going to see the same matches because I think they're kind of working that out.
Right.
But again, they come out and all the cheers, like they knew all the cheers and stuff. That's awesome. It was just a riot, and you have to. No matter how you feel about wrestling, you shake your head and kind of sadly go, seriously? But, I mean, they put on a good show.
Yeah,
it's a show.
I will say I loved wrestling better when I was a kid, and and you had clear faces and heels. But like the wrestling, and when I was in Virginia working at a radio station, we did a lot of promotion for like the regional wrestling, which was I can't remember what it was called, but we had the guys come in, and they were very much a throwback to the WWF days, with there was like a dude who would be Star Spangled whatever, and then there's a dude dressed up like a Russian, and and it was fun. It's good fun.
It's good.
It really is.
It's a different kind of theater and stuff, and we're living in the day and age of everything. They've done an amazing job of marketing their stars, the video presentations, just everything about it. I was really impressed with it, and again, I was just so excited about how excited my kids were about this. This was better than going to a rock concert for them right now.
That's great.
Hopefully, rock concerts will be soon, but right now it's a WWE.
I would say, that's another thing that we used to quote to each other all the time was Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. The American Dream.
Son of a plumber.
He had that Southern Texas accent. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream.
And a little bit of a lisp.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hard times.
Hard times. Dusty was going through hard. He referred to himself.
Dusty's
going through hard times.
And ain't your boy Ric Flair? You put hard times on the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. But the American people know about hard times, Daddy. Hard times.
Now, he just passed away like a year or two ago.
Oh, man.
And he passed away at 70 or 74 years old. I remember viewing him as a kid. I thought he was 74 then. And doing the math, he was 38 years old. And he looked horrible.
I mean, it just, because he did so many, because he came up in the Jim Crockett sound, the Southern wrestling, where he did a lot of blood matches. Where he would cut himself.
Those guys had those.
like the big scars on their foreheads,
all over the forehead because they put the razor blades under there and they just cut their forehead to make the blood
all over the place.
Oh man,
hard times is a man who worked for a company for 30 years. They give him a gold watch, kick him in the butt, and say, "A computer took your job, Daddy."
We should memorize some Dusty Rhodes speeches, man. He was something else.
I know I don't look like the star today. My booty just a little big. My belly just a little big. But I'm bad, Daddy. They were two bad men. One was John Wayne, and he's dead. And I'm the other one. Like Dusty Rhodes. And this is spontaneous. This is just him speaking extemporaneously, cutting a promo.
See, I don't think, that's what to me is missing with today's WWE stars, is the people that really have that gift of that. I mean, we've had a few of them, I think, but Dusty Rhodes,
Ric Flair. These shoes cost more than your house.
Woo!
To beat the best, you gotta be the best. It's just that whole thing. Yeah.
Hulk and even Macho Man. Oh, yeah, his little cocaine.
What you gonna do?
Monologues. What
you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
What you gonna do? Oh yeah, that was a line last night.
That was a line last night, which is fantastic.
So it's what's new at the movie Brewdio? We kind of covered that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
good stuff
we're as we examine the why of this podcast. We've reached a decision that I am going to do a film this summer, and that's it. And so part of the why of the podcast is building this so that we can build that and do something locally that it will be good for people. It'll create jobs for people. It'll create a lot of local interest. It will build some excitement around the things that we do. But more importantly, and I'm honest about this, more importantly, I'm really interested in building things that are good for the community. Things that enrich the community that we live in, things that make this a more desirable place to live, a more desirable life destination. We have a friend who's not happy where she lives right now, and I'm not going to mention her name, and Tess and I are all over, come on, move to Frostburg. There's so much good art stuff going on here. There's so much cool stuff. So anyway, that's what's new at the movie Brewdio, and as I mentioned, class last night was fantastic.
Yeah, it was awesome,
and we'll continue that. So what? So you mentioned that you watched Dirk Gently.
Right.
Anything else you're watching and listening to this week?
That was pretty much the big thing. What I've really been watching more than anything lately is I've been watching like YouTube tutorials on stuff, like on software, and that's really all I've been doing is trying to up my game with. Especially, I was
trying to smarten yourself.
Yeah, trying to learn a little bit about something.
It's amazing. Anytime and I think about that a lot. I'm creating some new marketing for my classes and things like that. My workshops that I do out of town, and I was getting a little frustrated with. My designs aren't good. I'm using InDesign, part of the Adobe pack, and but like anything I'm like, I can just get a template and then watch a video to teach me how to use the template. It's like anything you think, and I did this a lot on home design, like putting down floor tile, grouting floor tile, all this thing. There's a video to teach you how to do.
Everything. Anything you want to learn.
Anything you can think of.
Yeah.
There are multiple videos to teach that, and it's a nice day and age that we live in.
Oh, yeah. And I think it really, it undercuts some of the, like there are these schools that are diploma farms. Where it's like, hey, come learn graphic design. Spend $30,000 or $40,000,
or watch this video,
or watch these videos for free.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not the undercut graphic design, but there's a certain element of you either you either have an eye for this or you don't.
And it's one thing to go to like the Savannah College of Design, which is a really accomplished and acclaimed program for it, and is really rigorous, and not everybody makes it in and whatever. And a school that says, look, did your check clear? You're in.
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Yeah.
And then they basically teach you how to use Photoshop and how to use Adobe Illustrator or how to use Adobe Premiere, which you can learn all that stuff. And you don't need that piece of paper, or you don't need to spend that money to learn those skills. Yeah.
Sure.
But other than that, that's really what I've been listening to. What about you?
It's been a busy week. You know, I forget how much has happened or not happened since our last podcast. Last Friday night, a friend of mine, local friend, I'll mention her name. I think it's okay. Lisa Sesnick and her husband Joe. They had a house concert where they had a prominent artist from the Boston area. I was not previously familiar with him, but he's got quite a body of work. His name is Adam Ezra. And, I mean, it's blocks from Arizona. It's just, I could have walked there.
Yeah.
Basically, we went over and, we had a little drinks and hors d'oeuvres, and then this guy starts playing. And he's kind of folky. He also records with, like, a group, the Adam Ezra group, I believe they're called, but just a really cool guy. The music was awesome. The company was even better.
Nice.
Saw a lot of friends I hadn't seen for a while. Friends who are Facebook familiar.
Right.
So nice to once every 2 years or so
actually see them.
Karen and Dean in person.
Right. Exactly.
And in a few cases, not Karen and Dean, but in a few cases,
people
that I argue with on Facebook.
Right.
To see them, and all in good faith. But the last time I saw you, we were arguing about politics on Facebook. But it's nice to see people, and because it was cool. But Adam Ezra, wonderful little house concert, good gathering of people. And then I did finally do it. After talking about it now for 3 or 4 weeks, I finally sat and listened to some of Simon Sinek.
Yes.
And Simon Sinek is not a cynic. Simon Sinek is a really wonderful speaker, presenter, motivational speaker. How would you classify him?
It's so hard to he does consulting work for companies and for organizations, but his consulting work is more about how do you build the right culture in your organization. Not necessarily like a consultant who comes in and says, look, to hit your fourth quarter targets, you need to do this and this and this. It's more like your employees do not feel safe in your organization, and here's what you need to do to make them feel safe so you can maximize, so they can be really productive members of what you're doing. Such an interesting guy. He's so smart. And we were talking a little bit about, yesterday was like the first day in a long time where I felt really productive. I got a lot of work done, and I feel like I'm fighting like dopamine addiction. Like
the talks.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about the dopamine. The dopamine hit that you get from opening up Facebook.
Yep.
And it is true. Like I can't. Facebook is a tough place to be right now. There's a lot of political vitriol out there that I'm not interested in participating in.
Correct.
But when I see something that agrees with my political views, I'm like, yes, all right, yeah.
You tell them,
And then as soon as someone says something I don't agree with, and it's like, what? You've ruined my day, you Nazi. And so either way, you're getting these hits of these chemicals,
right? And
you can't resist it. My wife has taken she is off of Facebook. But now she'll check in on my Facebook.
Right. Well, I found one of the biggest things that helped productivity-wise for me is that I can leave. You can go to like messenger.com and sign into your Facebook Messenger, so you can message people, because I message a lot of people.
And I have a lot of a couple of places that I teach classes. That's how they contact me through Facebook. So I can't remove it. Plus, I also keep the movie Brewdio page on there. I keep Improv with JWQCP on there. We now have a special school page.
Right.
So all of these, there are reasons I have to go on there.
Right.
But then suddenly 15 minutes is gone, and I'm still scrolling down through crap that I just don't need in my life right now.
Yeah. It's a real bummer to me too, and I don't know what to do about it. I do know that, like, I've turned off notifications basically pretty much across the board.
Yeah. Do you get one of my favorite things is like there's somebody I know. I friended a lot of people when I directed the films because I want to be able to play to that audience. Particularly now we've got a new project. I want to tell everybody I'm directing the film. It's part of this business that you have to participate in. So there are people that I friended that I don't know. Let's be honest. So there's one group, and basically her political views agree with mine. She lives in California. We have some mutual friends, but she'll message a whole group of people, hey, did you hear what somebody did or sign this petition or whatever? And it seems like a couple times a week I get this group message of someone I don't even know. I don't care what they think of me or whatever. I still refuse to unfriend her. But I always have to go into that conversation, which will blow up my phone at the most inconvenient time and leave the conversation, which it publicly shames you. J.W. Myers has left the group, has left the conversation. I'm like, why do I care? I don't know these people. I don't think I know anybody in this group.
And I'm still ashamed.
I'm ashamed to leave because I basically agree with what she's saying. I just don't want to be in this conversation. Why did you put me in this in the first place?
It's why I turned off my messenger notifications. I turned off my email notifications. I've turned off so that apps don't notify me. Because again, that's when that happens.
Yeah,
you get there's a ding.
Yeah,
and you check, you get a hit of dopamine.
Yeah, I got that ding is really hitting the dopamine.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It really is. So, there we go.
All right, so in my heavy-handed segue here, Karl, what did you do this week, not related to technology?
I didn't do much that was not related to technology, unfortunately.
You just kept getting that hit of dopamine constantly.
I did. It's, trying to think, what did I do that was not related to technology? Well, what I've really tried to do more so than doing something non-technology related, what I've tried to do is just put the technology away more, even if that means just being in, just putting technology away and let's watch a movie without me having my phone out, or let's play a game, let's play Yahtzee, and just put the phones away.
That has been a huge focus of really. Actually missed a bunch of texts last night at class. I mean, it's. The simplest thing in teaching a class or whatever, just shut it down. Shut it down.
Yeah,
be here now and do this thing.
Yeah.
I actually picked up a spiritual quote this week.
Oh, okay.
Eckhart Tolle, your entire life consists of the present moment.
It's true, yeah.
Your entire life consists of this present moment. And that is what technology haunts us with. It takes us away from experiencing the present moment. It's just like, just shut up and be here.
Yeah.
Just shut up and, watch your daughter sing a song rather than record your daughter sing a song to make a video that you'll never watch again.
That you'll never watch again.
Yeah.
Or will watch only infrequently. Or, again, I think there's a time and a place to... To do some of that, but
sure,
for the most part, just try and be present and try and put the phone down. Like I've done, I've really made a conscious effort when I wake up to take 10 or 15 minutes before I grab my phone.
Yep, that was something Simon Sinek mentions. Back to Simon Sinek, we're all over that. But that whole, if you get up and the first thing you do is turn on your phone or turn on your computer to check. Facebook or anything. Check Facebook, email, messages, text, whatever.
Right.
You're doing it for the hit of dopamine that you get from that. And what is the difference between getting up and the first thing you do is take a drink, or getting up and the first thing you do is take a hit of however you do heroin, or even do whatever that we would accuse one of being addicted to? There is no difference. You're doing it for that same chemical reaction as a drug, as someone who's addicted to a drug, to a chemical that causes that chemical reaction.
Yeah, and so that's
crazy.
That's what I've tried to do more so than anything is just be mindful of like how much are you using technology? Do you need to have your phone? I will say my phone is cooperating because for some reason like the the cellular antenna in my phone has died, and so when I leave Wi-Fi, I have no phone. It's like, and I've taken it. I took it to AT&T. It was like, hey, what's going on? They're like, well, the antenna's dead or whatever, and you can, pay the money for your claim for your insurance, but that is the same price as the payoff on the phone, and then you could upgrade your phone. And I thought, you know what?
Are you AT&T?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just I just went through this with my phone.
Yeah.
Died at the end of my contract. Go buy a phone. Go buy a phone.
Just go buy a phone.
Buy a phone. I spent $250 on this Samsung S6, and it's awesome. I'm not tied to anything.
Yeah.
If someone comes up with a better contract now, I'll go there. I'm not, off that carousel. No offense, AT&T, but you're not sponsoring my podcast either.
That's right.
You pay me some money, and I won't talk crap about you. Until then, kiss my.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
So, well, it's been interesting though, because it's been sort of it's been a fun experiment to say, if you're out somewhere and you go like, oh, what was the name of the actor who was in The Greatest American Hero?
Yeah, but then you just realize William Catt. I know that.
William Catt,
but,
yes, of course.
But that also kind of challenges, like, I don't know. I several times trying to think of. I just listened to Roger Corman on Mark Maron, and then I've tried to recall Roger Corman like 3 times since then, and I couldn't think of Roger Corman's name.
Right.
And I'm starting to go, is this really because I'm getting close to 50 here? Or
right. Is there something else?
I think there's just too much information. I think I'm just too smart.
There's too much stuff in there.
There's too much stuff in there. I'm out of synapses or neurons or whatever.
Well,
I don't have enough room to even know what they're called.
Whatever that stuff, all that brain stuff,
all that silly brain
Hopefully
stuff.
the mushroom juice kicks in. But no,
I need more mushroom juice.
It's really been interesting to be like, because when I'm home, I connect to Wi-Fi, and I have AT&T cellular across the Wi-Fi, so I can get calls and I can send text messages and stuff. But when I'm out and about, it's like, oh well, you don't have a cell phone.
Because I have texted you a few times this week, and I've been like, why isn't Karl texting me back?
And then I get home and I get like 15 text messages, like, I couldn't text everyone back. But it's been really interesting
excuse.
to like. Because it makes you mindful of like how often you're someplace and you pull your phone out and just mindlessly scroll away at something.
It's like, you justify. For me, I'm not a phone preferrer. I actually prefer to be on my laptop for Facebook and for anything else. But for a lot of years, it kind of subversively took over to this place where, as a freelance artist who wrote scripts and stuff, I would justify, well, I'm working. Because I'm on my laptop, I'm working.
Yeah.
And then slowly over the course of 15 years, from probably the early 2000s when I started working on a laptop till now, I would like to see that percentage of how the percentage of working and wasting time went from probably 3 to 5%. I'm like the worst thing on the laptop was playing solitaire.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
and you're not writing a script right now. You're playing solitaire.
You're playing Minesweeper. Yeah.
Now that God blessed number's got to be in the 97th percentile of time that I'm wasting versus the 3% where I'm actually getting something business related done.
I think if
horrible.
I think if you were to pull like on my iPhone, I can look at what uses the majority of my battery.
Yeah.
And when I check, it's like 40% of it's Facebook. It's like 40% of what's killing my battery.
40%. You're making yourself sound good,
right? No, I mean it's like this. It's this huge chunk of.
Don't look at the time person.
No.
There are actually apps out there that will measure your online activity time and tell. There is an app or a program or whatever the heck that will tell you how much time you're spending online. Well, that's probably, if you want some serious self-evaluation, if you really want to look at it, I'm scared to know what that would
be. Well, they just, I think there's a Kickstarter running right now for this company has built a like old school word processor. And so it's basically, it looks kind of like an IBM Selectric keyboard. Yeah. So it has those nice big physical keys, and then it has like a tiny kind of maybe phone-sized screen that you can see what you type, and that's it. And then it has a it has like a key on the keyboard or something that you hit, that saves the file to your Dropbox. Like you connect it to, when you hit Wi-Fi, it saves your file to Dropbox. But that's it. You can't go online. You can't look at anything.
But seriously, this is a great idea.
Yes.
But you could do that on your laptop anytime. You don't have to go to Facebook.
Yes.
You don't have to check your
Turn
email.
off, just
you don't have
disable.
to go to porn. No, but you don't have to do any of those things.
Just turn off your Wi-Fi.
You just do.
Turn off your Wi-Fi. And just work.
Well, now my script writing program's a program called Fade In, and it saves my files in Dropbox, but I guess I don't actually have to be connected because the Dropbox box is mirrored on my laptop. So you're right. No, I wouldn't have to actually be online.
It's tough. It's a really interesting concept. It's an interesting and I've been going around and around and around on that. Although I just remembered, because you were talking about film, what I was watching over the weekend. I was going back and watching Every Frame a Painting. Have you seen this on YouTube?
No.
It's this guy named Tony, and he does these little video essays on different movies. And what he'll do is focus on, like, Kurosawa, but he'll look at how Kurosawa uses, like, the different themic elements that Kurosawa would use in film. So there's usually some sort of...
he sounds too smart for me.
No, they're really...
I don't make those
They're
movies.
really, really good. like Kurosawa used weather elements and, different types of shots and how to use movement in compositions, in film. There's a great one about Jackie Chan, how to do comedy and action.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really good. Yeah, Every Frame a Painting. They're fantastic.
I forgot another thing I watched was the doc on Roger Ebert called Life.
That's great. That's fantastic. Book. Beautiful
It was so beautiful, and it really captured Roger.
Yeah.
And it's, and what I liked about it, he was insistent with the filmmaker, is they made you look at him in the last phase of his life.
Show everything.
When he had no bottom jaw. He just had a slack piece of skin hanging down there. And you had to just look at something you did not want to look at. There's something beautiful about that, telling the truth about it.
Yes, and show like the frailty, show like he's dying of cancer and just it's such a beautiful documentary, and
but captured his passion, captured the part of his life when he was young and vibrant, and captured his relationship with Cisco, which was the most interesting relationship, captures his marital life and his work life, and he can literally continued to work until he drew his last breath. He just Ebert found a way to overcome and keep doing. He did that. He had that thing that he loved to do.
And he's a critic that I miss. I really miss Roger Ebert.
There's something I don't care much for critics. I don't care. Most of people that read and review, like, everyone's a critic now. Anybody can write a review on it. Yeah. And it's great if they write nice things. But when someone writes something that's not nice, well, who the heck are you? I don't care.
Right.
I would have loved to have had Roger Ebert review one of my films, good or bad.
Right.
Because I would respect the perspective with which he did it. And he's one of those rare critics that also wrote a film.
Yes,
he did write Faster Pussycat Die Die, one of those Corman.
Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Beyond the Valley of Dolls. Yeah, it was Ken Russell. No, it's not Ken Russell.
Is that a
someone
Russ
like
Meyer?
That. Russ Meyer. Thank you,
Russ
Meyer.
Yeah,
I was getting my Russes mixed up. So there's a bit of most critics do because they can't do themselves. Most critics do that because they can't do it themselves. You can never say that about Roger Ebert because he wrote a script, and he wrote a terrible one.
And Roger Ebert,
it was not good.
No, and Roger Ebert loved cinema.
Yeah,
and loved all different kinds of cinema, and loved, and
Scorsese had a beautiful story about him. When Scorsese had a down point in his life, about his friendship with Roger, and really kind of pulled him out of kind of a low when he was doing a lot of coke and all that kind of stuff, which, you see Scorsese now, he seems like such a straight guy, but he had a tough time in the 70s for a while.
Well, a lot of people
a lot of people had a tough time in the 70s.
I read an article that a guy had written where he had I can't remember exactly what his relationship was with Ebert, but he had some sort of a professional relationship with him when he was young, And then as he got older, he had written a column that was really savagely just vicious towards Ebert sort of personally.
Yeah.
And Roger Ebert had sent him an email that was like, because he saw the email and he was like, oh, well, here we go, because I've really ripped him in this article. And Ebert's response was sort of like, I don't know what's happened to you or what's going on with you, but I assume that you're dealing with something that makes you feel really terrible. And you probably feel about as terrible as I do after reading your article, right? It was like this it was sort of like calling him out, but also like you're obviously in pain and damage because
being able to see that from the higher perspective.
And so then later on, when Roger Ebert is dying, the guy had posted a sort of a critique of his own article saying, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done this in perspective. This was me lashing out, and this was me with my father issues and all these different things and whatever. And, I don't know if Roger Ebert even knows who I am anymore, and I don't know if he pays attention, but, I'm sorry. And like the next day, Roger Ebert had sent him a message that says all is forgiven. He was just a beautiful guy. Really.
Yeah.
And and when he hated a movie, he hated a movie.
Oh yeah.
But the interesting thing was like he hated what's the guy's name? Who did he did Buffalo 66?
Oh yeah.
And starts with a V.
I forget.
Vince something or I can't remember his name, but he did that and he did like the brown bunny or the blue bunny.
Oh, I know the guy. I remember him from. This is a guy, our generation.
Yeah.
This guy, I ran into him Sundance. He's obnoxious.
Yeah, well, and Roger Ebert wrote this really.
Come back to haunt me, but I did not like that. He was obnoxious.
Vince Gallo.
Yes, yeah. I ran into him at Sundance, and I was like, "Who is this?" Like he was in a leather suit and stuff. I mean, it was just like. What do you do? I went to Sundance for about a 6-year period in the 90s, and the 1 year there it was just like, what are you?
Well, like in the movie, like I think it was called the Brown Bunny or the Blue Bunny.
Yeah.
He did this movie where like he was like a drug addict, and there is a sex scene in the movie that's not a simulated sex scene.
Yeah.
It's like he's actually like filming someone having sex with him. Like it was in like it was his girlfriend it was really like just
I can't tell you how creeped out I was being in the same room with that guy a couple of times. It was just everywhere at that festival. It was like, ugh.
And so Roger Ebert savaged that movie, just talked about how bad it was. Yeah. And so then this guy was like, I'm glad you got cancer. I mean, and it was,
oh, because
it was like, I think he had like colon cancer or something.
Yeah.
And Roger Ebert responded like, I would rather watch the footage of my colonoscopy than your movie. But then like years later, Vince Gallo, I guess, got off the meth or whatever recut it. And when Ebert saw it again, he was like, this is a much better film. You recut it, and this is much better. I see what you were going for. It's maybe it's still not the kind of movie I want to see, but it's much clearer what your intentions were and what you were trying to do. So he was open to that, even something that he really hated, coming back to it and looking at it again.
He had that ability, and I struggle with this a lot as a teacher, and we talked about it last night. I just have to say, are you okay if I'm straight with you?
Yes,
because I ultimately I have a bit of a pleaser personality, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
But there is that bit of, if I'm going to do my job correctly, I have to have permission as an artist to speak to you as an artist directly.
Right.
And I have to be able to say, look, here's something that's going to improve what you do. If you listen to what I have a lot of experience at this, here's what, here's what's going to improve it. And I'm going to call it what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really finding with you guys, which I'm so grateful for, is a group artist that I can be really direct with and will accomplish a lot more quickly.
And I love feedback. Like as working, when I've worked in shows, I've always worked with directors who were very... the first shows I did in Virginia with Courthouse Players, which was a fantastic community theater group. I worked with a director named Dick Lusher, who had worked in television in New York in the 60s, and then he had been part of like a traveling, like a touring company that did shows, and he landed in Matthews County and put together this community theater group, and he really demanded like excellence. He would not tolerate people showing up late or people not taking it seriously, and he would really push. He would say, if I can see your back, right, like if you don't cheat out on stage, if I can see your back, I'll tell you one time that I can see your back. The second time, I'm throwing my shoe at you. And so literally, we would be on stage, and like he would literally throw his shoe at you.
So
and
you're
hit
giving
you in
me
the
permission
back.
to throw shoes at you at improv class.
To the point that in my later years, I've gone and seen shows where a character has turned their back,
pulling your shoe off,
and I'll turn to Tracy, and she'll go, Dick Lusher would be throwing his shoe right now.
Dick Lusher would be throwing his shoe now.
But he was a great director. He would give you feedback, and he was direct, and he was honest, and you could always tell. Dick would always say, I think we've got a pretty good show. You know, we get to opening night. I think we have a pretty good show. And we did Under the Yum Yum Tree, which I don't know if there was a film version. Fred McMurray was in it, I think. And we felt like it was really good. I mean, we felt, like sometimes you do a show and you're like, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
But we felt like this show is really good. And we had been fine-tuning it for weeks. And before we went out, he said, guys, I just want to tell you, we got a hell of a show here. And you just felt like you were 10 feet tall, like just like for him
someone
to say,
when someone siphons out compliments that,
and then he would after the show
sparingly
he would give out awards at the cast party, and they were called the Little Dicky Award. So you would get your little Dicky. It was fantastic. He was a great guy.
Now,
that's
really cool. That is really cool.
Yeah. So no, I like that. I like getting feedback. I think it's really, and you just have to be open to that and just be like, hey, look, okay, just tell me how you perceive this, because I don't know, I can't tell what it looks like,
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. So my next question is, and we've kind of covered this a little bit, but what did you do this week to make your life better?
I think the interesting thing, and this will sound maybe a little counterintuitive, was I had a weekend with basically my whole family gone, so I was really by myself for an entire weekend, and it really makes you appreciate your family. Like, it makes you appreciate, like having, like, to some degree you go like, it's, it was fine, and I was working over the weekend, so it wasn't a big deal, but Tracy came home and was like, I've really missed you. I've really just missed.
When you're around people all the time, I think sometimes you get a little bit numb to, you're just used to everybody being here. Yeah. Sometimes they get on my nerves, blah, blah, blah. But boy, you take them out of the element, man. This house is quiet and lonely. Yeah. And and it's just that sense of, like, there were things I just wanted to. I had ideas and I had thoughts, and I wanted to just talk to her. I wanted to bounce ideas off of her, and she wasn't there, and she was like at a funeral, so it wasn't like I could call her and say, hey, it was, it was really interesting. See, ours was kind of the opposite, because Tess, we had, I told you I took the kids to WWE, so I got the kids all weekend, but Tess went to the Women's March. Right. And it was tough. She almost canceled a few times for that reason, not because she really wanted to be a part of this and support this. And I said, I think this is something that you will, whether or not the actual experience of it is fulfilling, I think that you'll be proud that you did this, and it'll be something you'll be proud to tell your daughter that you did whenever she's old enough to understand the significance of it. Right. And it turned out they had a great time at the actual thing. It was very peaceful. It was very uplifting. It was very loving. Cool. And that too. But she did have that experience of really longing for us to get back, because she really missed the closeness of family.
I struggle with that a lot. Like when my father-in-law died a couple years ago, our whole family was divided up. We were in different places, and so it was like Tracy and I and Ethan, we were already in Virginia, and the girls were coming separately, from different places, and and I had this such an anxious, I was just anxiety, until everyone was together. I needed everyone to be in the same house. I needed to be able to see everyone and hug everyone and know that everyone was,
Yeah.
Like that. You sometimes you just take that for granted. Or it does get so routine that you don't think about it. But yeah, it was a neat reminder of like, oh yeah, these are my people. I'm really happy with these people are here.
Yeah, and there have been some deaths and losses, some residual tragedies in and around and stuff. That there's always this constant reminder to hold what you have close. Or to appreciate the things that are happening right now, to appreciate how good your life is. Nobody has enough money. Nobody has enough time. Nobody has any. I'm sure that the wealthiest people in the world still want more. But to really appreciate, I think that what we have, taking time to appreciate what we have is pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
The house is too small, but I can, but every piece of information I ever want's available to me and immediately at the touch of a button.
Well, I had a sense of that, where I walked in the house, it was cold outside, and I walked in and the house is warm, and you just go like, I'm in a warm house.
Holy bejesus!
Yeah. I have all this stuff around me. I have a family. I have, there's all this stuff to be so thankful for.
The moment you start getting depressed about something, it's true. It's such an overset. It can't be overset enough. Kind of spiritual principle. The first thing you do is you just look at what you do have.
Right.
Make that list of what you do have.
Yeah.
I had an interesting experience. I can't remember if I shared about this last week, but I think I touched on it. But I get overwhelmed with trying to do things. It's interesting. We've just gotten this clarity about making a film, which is awesome. Right. But I get lost in I'm not doing. No matter how much I do, I'm not doing enough. And then sometimes I just get overwhelmed by it all, and I can't do anything but sit around and surf on Facebook.
Right.
So I did a spiritual exercise that I've known about for 20 years, and have I ever actually done it? No.
Right.
So I sat down and took a piece of paper, and I drew a line down the middle of the paper. And said, this half, here's the things I can do, okay? I can record this podcast every week with you. I can process that. I can finish putting special school out there. I can teach my class every week, teaching a class at Frostburg State. I can finish writing the business plan to this thing, finish writing the business plan to that thing. I can finish writing the script of this thing. I can finish writing the script of the... these are the things that I can do. I
right.
Put these on a to-do list, punch them down, I can do these things. Now... on the other side of the paper, you put, here's what I need God to handle. Here's what I need, or the universe, karma, whatever your vision of God or infinity or whatever. Greater force. If you believe it. Some people don't even believe in that. I have a belief in something larger than us.
Right.
Probably not in line with anyone else's idea of what that larger thing is, but that there's something beyond me.
Right.
Some organizing force in the universe. And so you put on that side of the paper, things that are, what? I want to do a film this year. I need money for this thing. I'd like to get a new car this year. I'd like, things that I don't know what action step I could do to get to this thing. Right. It's a little larger than I can handle, but I'm going to ask the universe. I'm going to ask God to handle this thing.
Right.
So I did this a week and a half ago. I've ticked 4 things off. God's ticked 4 things off that list.
Yeah.
I've ticked 4 or 5 off my list too. I'm working down my list, but a couple of those things, and not necessarily so much ticked off the list, but like a lead on something on that list came in like out of the blue. I heard from somebody I haven't talked to in 20 years. I got an email from somebody I haven't talked to in 20 years.
Right.
It's like, why did that happen?
Right.
Yeah. Well, what a coincidence. Or it could be.
Right.
Or there could be some value in this little spiritual game.
Well, yeah, and you have to, I think that depends on your perspective as well. Like, I think you either have to accept that everything is random and that things happen randomly, or you have to believe that everything is connected. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think you can say some things are connected, because you brush up against the boundaries of that pretty quickly. Like, well, this thing is connected to that, but that's as far as it goes. Well, no, that thing's connected to all these things out here, and
I definitely, I wrestled with being an atheist over the course of the last year. I started to look at, well, maybe I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
And I'm not, because I do believe in the fundamental. Not to say that atheists don't have some interesting points that they make, and some interesting way of approaching a non-theistic point of view. I actually I'm quite fond of science. I don't ask God to explain. God's going to fix climate change. Well, no, I don't believe that.
Right.
But anyway, no, I do believe in the fundamental interconnectedness of everything.
Right.
And if the only interconnectedness that we aren't finding is what we haven't discovered yet. We just haven't found that connectedness yet. And that is my belief. I'm not saying that to one of the things that always pisses me off about religion and God and all that stuff in general is that anyone who imagines that the way that they have to construct their world and their beliefs is in any way relevant to mine.
Right. Yeah.
This is my inner way of organizing.
Right.
Things,
well, yeah, and I think God ends up bringing stuff to people different ways.
Sure.
It's like a coach on a team. Like you can talk to one player one way and you can yell and scream.
Yeah.
And another guy you got to go to and go, hey, look, come on, just you can do this and it's okay, and you got to build them up. It's just different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely. So I grabbed a couple of quotes and I bring them up for discussion. It's funny, two of them have kind of come up already.
Yeah.
We mentioned Eckhart Tolle. Your entire life consists of the present moment. In this, you mentioned Vonnegut earlier, and I was like, oh my God, I wrote this down. Be soft. Do not let the world make you hard. Do not let pain make you hate. Do not let the bitterness steal your sweetness. Take pride that even though the rest of the world may disagree, you still believe it to be a beautiful place.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you read any Vonnegut?
I've read some Vonnegut, and it doesn't really do... I love Kurt Vonnegut as... I like his stuff where he's writing essays and where he's talking about his craft and things like that. His actual writing doesn't do much for me, oddly enough.
I went on a tear a few years ago, and I pretty much tore through his library, or at least everything that was... I was on recorded audio at the time.
Right.
Slaughterhouse-Five is a genius work, and I've worked in that same concert. My Billy Zillman's Penguin. It's funny, I had Billy Zillman and he had Billy Pilgrim, and I'd never read his stuff before. We had a little connection in that. Welcome to the Monkey House, I think, was probably my favorite. That was a collection of short stories.
Yeah, I mean, he was a really, really just I think an incredibly intelligent guy, and he came back to those kind of quotes over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be kind, you have to, and like I was talking earlier about, you have to create art, and and the world needs artists, and the world needs what you're going to create. It needs your contribution. He's a really super interesting guy.
Good. Yep. And the other one's kind of similar to that, and it's Anais Nin, which is, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. Right, yeah. And the reason I brought that up, the reason it occurred to me is because I'd just gotten off Facebook. And I'm like, and this is the center of every argument there. It's, people were reflecting who they are right now. Right. And we're looking at, the same set of information, and people are seeing it in two completely different ways.
Right, because you bring your own, you filter information through your own thoughts and feelings and understanding of how the world works. And I'll tell you a book that I've been reading that has been very interesting, and it just kind of popped in my head talking about that. It may be changing your perspective. Is this book called Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a guy, he went to Yale Law School. He's a former Marine. Well, there are no former Marines. Once a Marine, always a Marine. But he was a Marine, Yale Law School. But he grew up between Middletown, Ohio, and like the back holler, some part of eastern Kentucky. And talking about this book is all about sort of the people that he grew up with. And he says, like, hillbillies, people of Scots-Irish descent, sort of what they face as a class, why they're diminishing in America. And it's a memoir, so it's the story of his life. But it's talking about what he struggled with, even with the advantages that he had. And he had this support network around him that he had to confront a lot of these ideas that he grew up with. And really, it's a really, really interesting book. And especially, I think, after the results of this election, when people were saying, how do we miss this? How do we not account for, the frustration maybe of these white working class voters? It's a book that gets right into the middle of that. It's very, very interesting. But yeah, it's I think that's the thing that all people struggle with is, I had a boss who would come in to work periodically, and he would just unload on me,
Right.
And it really bothered me. And then I realized one day that this isn't about me. This is about.
Oh, when you say unload, like in an angry tirade.
Oh, like in an angry, just completely, And you would just go like, this is not about me. Like this anger is not about me. This, like this is, I'm the safety valve for him to be able to vent this, and when you change your perspective on things, you sort of go like, and I think that's an important thing to see things from different perspectives.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sure. And I think that's again back to Facebook and people that share things that don't align with your point of view. I think that we're all people are now putting a lot of emotion,
right?
A lot of their own process, a lot of their own self onto their Facebook shares.
And I think it's really important. I've always felt like it's an important exercise when someone criticizes you. Even if you feel like it's not, even if you feel like it's completely baseless, to take 20 minutes and go, are they right? Is this person accurate in how they're assessing me?
God, it sounds like Byron. Do you know Byron Katie?
I don't know Byron
spiritual
Katie.
teacher Byron Katie, but your process sounds very similar.
And so then you sort of look and you go like, if someone looks at you and goes, well, you're selfish and you're rude and you're whatever, then you look and you go, am I selfish? Am I rude? In my interactions with this person, have I been selfish and rude? If I have, then that's justified. I can't discount. I can't just throw that out because it's uncomfortable. I have to actually look at that and go, you're right. I have been rude and I have been whatever. Or you look and say, no, that's not accurate. Like they're either perceiving our interaction wrong, or this isn't about me. Their perception is wrong. It's very hard to do that because sometimes you look and you go,
I get caught up with it,
and you say like, I've been a real a-hole about this, or I've been really just I do it a lot in my marriage. I have to look and go, have I been insensitive?
That's always
and then you have to say,
school's in session.
Yeah, sometimes you go like, yeah, I have been. I really have been. So I have to be more mindful of that. I have to be more cognizant of that.
It's I did a 2-year program and ended up with a master's degree in this kind of self-evaluation,
right?
At USM in California, University of Santa Monica, and it was all looking within and realizing the world out there is all just a reflection of how you feel about things. And when things,
right?
The whole premise was I'm upset because. I'm upset because whatever is upsetting your peace, that's yours to process.
Right.
That is your work to do, your self-forgiveness, your forgiveness. Forgiveness is self-forgiveness.
Right.
Forgiving yourself for the judgments you've placed on Karl for being an a-hole.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's that also goes back to I've been reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, and part of the Stoic philosophy is you can't control anything outside of how you feel and how you react to things. So be in control of that. When people are going to come at you from different directions and different perspectives, but
I don't know if I would use and that's where I differ from Stoic philosophy. I don't know if I would use the word control.
Yeah.
I would say be aware of how you're. I would say be aware of how you're reacting,
right?
And process those judgments and forgive yourself. Look at the way that you react to the world. The world is a mirror,
right,
of what you're feeling.
Yeah,
and you're just simply projecting especially again, Facebook with all this stuff that's coming out there, and we're jumping to insane if one voted for this person, they must be a racist, neo-Nazi, a moron. Well, that's not true. That's not true. There might be a couple of them true, but for the most part, that is not even remotely true.
Right.
I think most of us aren't like that.
Right, and you look at most people and you say most people love their families and love their kids, and they are good neighbors, and they they just have political views that that you can't that are diametrically opposed to what your views are,
or their approach to solving the problem is slightly different than what your approach would be.
Right. I always tried to tell, with my kids, or when I've been in charge of employees or whatever, you have to develop integrity. You have to develop your own integrity and how you're going to respond to things. And it comes down to what you feel is the right thing to do. And so you don't let other people's actions dictate your behavior.
Right.
Other people may do things to you that you feel are unfair. Other people may do things that you feel are whatever, but you have to react based on how you are set up internally and your own internal integrity. Do you respond by punching them in the face? Well, that there are consequences to that. There are you have to respond. You have to think about how you're going to do that, and then you have to be intellectually consistent with that as that goes across different situations. You can find yourself in two situations where the principle is the same, but the parties involved are completely opposite. I think that's what concerns me more with political conversations. Is I have no issue with someone who says, like, well, I'm for limited government, right? Because it's like, I don't agree with libertarian philosophy necessarily, but I respect libertarians who criticize Republicans and Democrats when they expand government. Right. That's intellectually consistent.
Absolutely.
Like, you're walking the walk. I don't like people who say, like, when my team is in charge, then they can do whatever they want. But when your team is in charge, then I think it's bad if they do what my team did.
Well, that's what's got us at a stalemate at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing is moving forward.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting time to be alive. And I thought about that yesterday. I thought, like, my dad lived through. I've talked to him a lot about this. He lived through really tumultuous times in the 60s and early 70s.
Yeah.
And, and he was like, man, you get through it. You just, and that's how I think we'll get through this as well. Like, well, you just.
It is. I mean, and that to me is also, again, back to the Women's March and stuff. That was, I was very heartened that a bunch of people stood up for the way they felt about something. And they did it in a peaceful way.
Right.
And it was millions and millions of people all over the world stood up and marched and talked and got into action. And I think that's the most important thing that has come out of all this.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be okay. But I think you're right. I think we're back into a cycle now that's going to look a lot like the 60s and the early 70s.
Yeah.
There's some big changes happening, but it'll shake out and we will be at peace again. I'm pretty confident of that. I don't think we're going to have a civil war. I don't think we're going to have a world war. We're not going. It's not going to be Nazi Germany. I know that we on the left tend to overreact a lot to some of the things that are happening. And again, they're not things that they're not policies. They are not actions that are the way that I would go about things. But don't think we're quite going to be marching into internment camps either.
No, I think there's
exterminating millions.
Yeah, I think there's a philosophical principle that says that it's physically impossible to repeat the past. Like, once you're aware of a past event, there's no way to actually to repeat that event. And I think my feelings, politically are very much this system needs fundamental reform.
Yes.
Under the and that the underpinnings of both parties are really it's corrupt. I mean, the entire system is corrupt. It needs to be really reformed on a intrinsic level. So, but part of that is also people waking up and showing solidarity and saying we're not going to tolerate this thing or that thing, or these certain things need to happen. So it's a very interesting time. I worry about it. I mean, I worry about it from our kids' perspective. I've had a lot of conversations with Ethan where I've had to say, look, even if President Trump is a bad president, we've had bad presidents before, and we'll be okay, and there's not going to be a war, and nothing, it's not going to. The majority of what happens is not going to affect us on Fayette Street on Cumberland. We're going to be okay. And that's, I mean, to a large extent, I think that's true.
I sure hope it is.
Cut to 2 years from now, and we're in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, right. You shouldn't have. You had to mention that on the podcast, right. Carl.
It was episode 6.
You had to bring it up. You had to bring it up, Comrade Brubaker.
The whole system is corrupt. Yeah. So yeah.
So, who gets our kindness award this week?
I'm actually going to give it to my friends, the guys I do trivia with, who are friends of mine, Jeff and Jay and Bill. Because Saturday night I was working overnight. I work weekends, and was just feeling not super lonely, but just when you're working at night. Yeah. You're the only person in the building. You feel disconnected a little bit. Family's out of town.
Sure.
Felt disconnected. And they were all up watching Saturday Night Live. And so I was like, I'm up until 6 a.m. And so they hung with me for 2 or 3 hours just talking. And we just, had a conversation. Nice. And it was really, really nice. It was nice because they didn't have to. At any point they could have bailed out and gone to bed. But yes, that's who gets my. I'm just so happy I have one this week.
Now I have lots of them this week. I came packed. I brought extra ones.
That's good.
The Women's March I already mentioned.
Right.
I think that again was a very peaceful, and there was a lot of kindness there. I heard a lot of stories, people I personally know that went on it, my wife being one of them.
Right.
Her friends that she went with. There was just a lot of really good, peaceful stories about that. There's a lot of kindness that happened there.
Right.
But the other one that I mentioned in particular, I had a personal encounter with, is a young man by the name of John Skidmore. I believe he works as a nurse. I'm not even sure. He worked last Thursday night as Ben's ski instructor.
That's awesome.
And on a 3-hour skiing trip, Ben had never been on skis before. He worked with Ben all night and was just in that first night skiing for everyone who's ever skied before. Yeah. Even Ben's a lot closer to the ground than I am, but. He was just with him all night. His gentle guidance and patience. I just can't imagine. And I think I operated under a little bit of a delusion that I was going to teach Ben how to ski myself.
Right.
And I used to be an avid skier. I haven't been on skis in 9 years or so.
Yeah.
And so I've also I'm a little heavier than the last time I was on skis. And the couple times I went down, it was tough to get back up.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly your years start to catch up to you. And you're like, holy jeez.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets the kindness award this week. I was really impressed with this young man.
What a great name for a ski instructor.
John Skidmore.
That's fantastic.
Well, there's several Skidmores that live on this street here. And apparently he is a relative or a grandson or something of one of them. So I'm determined to find out who he's actually related to.
Yeah.
But just a nice young man.
Awesome.
The whole organization that we did that with was just a special little time.
Very cool. Very
cool. Are you feeling complete?
Feel good. Yeah. Feel
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot of juice around this film right now, man.
It's exciting. It's really exciting. We've been talking about that, for a while. Just that idea of delivering. That's what, part of what the podcast is. Like, we do it, and we did, like, last week, show wasn't great.
Well, you weren't feeling it was definitely not our strongest show,
right?
But I didn't. It wasn't that I prepare for this, and I know that we come every week. You were not feeling at your best,
right?
And I just think energy wise, it was down. I feel really re-energized this week,
I feel good.
And I feel the discussion has been lively. And
mushroom juice,
like I said, it's that mushroom juice, man. It just amped us, baby.
Yeah, no, but it was good. Like even if it's like this show wasn't great, but you put it out.
You put it well. There's a discipline in continuing to do it, and it wasn't terrible. There's nothing embarrassing.
No.
It's just the energy was a little bit lower, but. I'm feeling like, you really get energized when you start to go, there's a why here.
Yeah.
We're doing this to build a community, a movement around the arts, and excitement around creative endeavors.
Right.
That's kind of the why that's lying underneath all of this. And that's exciting. And specifically having a project to work toward now, I'm ready to do another film. I'm itching, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to be great. Yeah. But I think too, like that's one of those things, you have to claim it, like they would say in Virginia.
Yeah.
You claim it, and then by saying this is what I'm going to do, and then you let that stuff turn, and you let that stuff come to you.
I always said it. I said it every time I'd start a film venture. I said first you got to start the bullshit train rolling.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then
you got to start talking about it, and you got to start moving, and people jump on board, and things come to you that resources appear and people appear and things fall in place. And I have just gotten some real clarity on what I want to shoot next.
Yeah.
So
you need to practice.
It's a good little film.
Need to practice. What's it called? Sigil magic. Have you ever heard of
Sigil magic? No, I don't know this. It sounds great.
This is a guy, Grant Morrison, who's a comic book writer and magician. Not like stage magician, but says he performs actual magic. One of his comic book series, The Invisibles, which the Matrix is kind of loosely based on The Invisibles a little bit, was not selling well, and so he said, "Look, we need to have a." He encouraged that people have sex when they do this, so that would work. But you have to be able to clear your mind, right? Like completely clear from thoughts. So meditation will do it. Lots of different things will do it. You write out what you want to have happen, and then you start eliminating all the letters that repeat until you get down to just a series of letters that don't repeat. And then you combine all those letters together, overlap them, and find an interesting shape. And then you put it somewhere so when you reach that state of unconsciousness, or when you've cleared your head, you look at it, and that energizes the sigil and sends it into the universe, and then the universe will bring that to you.
That's just nutty enough to work.
The interesting thing is that when he started writing The Invisibles, he was
Who's
single.
this dude again?
Grant Morrison. Okay. He's a great writer. Just an awesome writer. And he wrote. He did a Superman, a 12-issue Superman series called All-Star Superman.
Right.
That is the best Superman series, hands down. It is the greatest.
Okay.
But he was single and was kind of depressed, and so he wrote a character into the book that was him, right? And so and then he gave that character like a beautiful redheaded love interest. And within like a month, he had met this redheaded love interest, and stuff like he had done he had King Mob was the character's name. He gets shot in the cheek, and then 2 weeks after that, he had gotten some weird flesh-eating bacteria in his cheek, in the same place. And it was the same wound, and it was a lot of crazy stuff that happened in that book, and it touches on I don't even know how to describe that book. But it's interesting. Sigil magic. Look it up.
Sigil magic. I will.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
All right. Well, all that said.
And mushroom juice. Everyone.
And mushroom juice.
Stay hydrated on the mushroom juice. Yes.
Well, again, I'm J.W. Meyer.
I'm Karl Brubaker.
And this has been the Movie Brewdio podcast with J.W. and Karl. ending episode number 6.
Yes.
And as we are trying to make a tradition of ending these podcasts with That's It, Fort Pitt. See you next week.